Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hello, everyone. This past month has really brought a whirlwind of emotions. If anybody remembers the movie 4 Weddings and a Funeral, it's a bit of how I feel in terms of quickly switching emotional gears. Plus, any opportunity to bring up a random 90s Hugh Grant rom com is a huge plus for me. A good friend and MUV, Make Us Visible co-founder, shared a Washington Post article today with me on feeling happier every day. In this article, it mentions something called joy snacks. These are little bite-sized morsels of joy to keep us happy, hold us over, or to remind us that it's going to be okay. And this is exactly what 80s and 90s rom-coms are for me, joy snacks. The articles also discuss gratitude, which, as many of you know, Oscar and I have talked about on multiple podcasts, as well as Greg and I, as a solution to all things negative, but at how much it's important for us to constantly be grateful, and that the act of practicing gratitude, doing gratitude journals, is truly something that allows us to not feel a lot of the emotions that we are experiencing at that moment. So anger, sadness, frustration. However, it's also really difficult to feel grateful when we are experiencing those emotions. So catch-22, right? Which is why it's something that I like to try to say is a practice and not something that I necessarily am an expert at, but definitely I am a person who likes to practice gratitude. My godfather passed away a few weeks ago, and I did post briefly about it, but I'm generally very private about things when it comes to family. And the way I describe my feelings after trauma or loss is muted. While I see death as sad, Oscar always says to him, it can be very joyous. And what I will agree with is how much we marveled during the experience of seeing my uncle's passing, because he truly received the grandest of goodbyes. Without going into too much detail of his health issues or decline, I was grateful to have shared moments with him while he was at his best and worst. In his final days, he was no longer able to communicate, and he passed away in his home, but surrounded by so much love. Several years ago, I spent time taking care of an uncle in hospice where we witnessed so many people dying alone. And that was depressing, but insightful. People die alone every day. My godfather spent the last 5 days of his life with his children, grandsons, nieces, nephews, and friends, visiting him and showering him with blessings and love. It is so inspiring for me to think about the way in which the family supported one another. Seeing them laugh and cry through the memories and just the extraordinary care he was given was truly a sight to behold. I can't possibly really paint a picture that captures the intensity and solemnity of those moments. You just had to be there. Watching his grandsons collectively pick him up to rotate him, even though they didn't have to all do it at the same time, was amazing. And when I think about family being there for one another, that image will forever be seared into my brain. The funeral was joyous and moving, and naturally sad. But I believe funerals are actually for the living. We take a moment to honor the deceased, but really it's a time for the living to share in their sorrow and reminisce on all the good times. Death always makes me selfishly think of my own mortality. It's inevitable, especially for those of us that are much closer than we have ever been before, or have family members that are elderly, or have family members that have been in and out of the hospital and been through a lot of surgeries and a lot of close calls. I'm not sure how much I've shared about my anxieties and fears of death, but for many years and through a lot of therapy, it is a subject that I have had to work through. A huge shout out to my therapist, who I, of course, believe is the best therapist in the world, and has actually helped me go from someone who would wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks thinking about death to someone who can now actually talk about it on air on a podcast. My biggest fears were not just about me dying, but the loss of those around me, people that I love. I used to think I had to choose between death being scary or not scary, bad or good. However, I think all can be true. Death can be scary, inspiring, inevitable, finite, and whatever else it means to us. Now, instead of focusing on death, I really try to focus on living. When someone around me that I know dies, regardless of how close they are to me, I think about how I want to spend the years that I have left living and who I want to share those precious moments with. It's just a very not so gentle reminder that our time here is fleeting and limited. Oscar has been talking about a book he listened to recently called Die with Zero. And the concept is to enjoy the now within reason and to die with $0. For me, I've been thinking about this a lot. And beyond the dollars, I feel like I'm giving myself life points. And these life points allow me to take advantage of every moment and to give everything I have to myself and to people around me that I care about. I am not so evolved, however, that I limit the giving to people who I believe are deserving. But at the same time, as a teacher, activist, advocate, and community servant, I guess I'm technically giving to those who might fall into the undeserving category. You mean, after all, who are we to judge, right? I think about service as a ripple effect of waves that I have no idea where they're going to crash or land. And I can only hope that the impact is positive and that my effects are worthwhile. And now on to love. My little cousin, whose grandfather actually is the one that recently passed away, celebrated his wedding the following weekend after the funeral. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions for them. Also, my students got married this week. 2 of my kids who I've watched grow from childhood into adult humans, they literally had a Disney fairy tale wedding, which means that Disney provides fireworks, castles, and beautiful backdrops for photos of a lifetime. But for me, the highlight was watching them enjoy the lion dance by their Wallam family. It was a very gratifying moment because the lion dance is the bride's favorite thing in the world. And I mean favorite. Her engagement ring is literally a lion holding a diamond. It just brought me so much joy to see her elated during the wedding lion dance blessing. I didn't realize how much I needed that happiness after all the events with the funeral. I can't say I'm as impacted as my aunt who lost her husband or his kids who's lost a parent, but grief can't really be quantified, can it? I mean, we all process and cope in our own way, and it also brings up feelings and memories that other people may not be privy to. So seeing a wedding and young love was a great comfort. Oscar and I talk about young love because after 23 years of our relationship in love, it certainly has evolved. And I know that people say love fades, but I don't actually think that's true. I think if you're growing with your partner, it evolves into a new love with each day that passes. And maybe that's just because I'm really fortunate. So being at a wedding is very typical, right? Because the speeches and a lot of what you hear are people giving advice to the bride and groom, even from the shower. Write something to the bride and groom that's, advice for their marriage. Or give your favorite tip for a happy marriage, right? And I kind of see weddings now like funerals. And let me explain what that means. We are there to honor and celebrate them, not really impart our wisdom. I think that someone who's passed away, they're already gone, and that's their body that's there, and we're just there to kind of share and honor that person and not lecture someone on what they should be feeling or doing at this point with loss. And at a wedding, I feel like we should be honoring and just celebrating the couple. I will not deny that, of course, I've given advice at a wedding. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that, but I think it's interesting that that is often the expectation. And as many of my listeners know, I am very, I wouldn't say opposed, but I would like to think that I try to break away from the conventional. Keyword is try. I didn't plan to give a speech that night, and in hindsight, would have liked to have been better prepared. And I realized I actually would have said this about the happy couple. Many people in your lives have emphasized and lauded you for the college degrees and titles that you have achieved. But I am proud of you for becoming humans who love and respect one another, especially the bride, who is incredible, not because of all the titles you've achieved, but because of the good you put out into the world through your actions. So congratulations to my quote unquote kids. I hope you are enjoying your first week as wife and husband. In the same way, funerals makes me think about my own mortality because, yes, selfish me. It also brings back wedding memories and young love and the drama of planning a crazy 500-person wedding. And just how grateful and fortunate I am to have the perfect partner in life to play the game of dying with zero. Oscar is my person, and if joy snacks are the key to daily happiness, then vitamin O is all I need. I allude to the Netflix series Love, Death, and Robots in the podcast title, not because I like the show, but I do find it interesting that the order in which you receive the episodes are based on your user profile. I can't recall which one was chosen for me first, but I think it was the one with the cats. I don't know what that means, but just thought I would bring it up. It brings up the question, do we have choices in life, or is everything predestined? It seems sometimes like things are chosen for us in the same way that Netflix decides what you should watch by cramming those previews down your throat. However, I like to think I can choose by defying their suggestion and being my own human. I do fail at this and completely give in because, that rom-com 80s, 90s throwback, I have to like this, right? So completely guilty. The robots know me. I recently posted an image that my student made for me using the new AI tool that you put photos of yourself in and then it blends it with graphic art of your choosing. I have no idea how any of this works, but I put a provocative question out on IG when I posted the photo to see what people would think. Is this the future of art? I think like anything else in this decade, AI is a tool for people to use and still need to know how to use them for now. I do think that plagiarizing work and passing it off as your own is wrong, but then someone brought up fan art and how is this different from fan art? All good questions. Maybe there aren't actually answers to them, or it's that Reddit forum where you can go down and just debate if you have all the time in the world, which I don't. But AI can be scary if we let it be, kind of like death. However, I'm really banking on robot nurses in the future, so I kind of vote that we will be needing them. Basically, we should just be asking ourselves if the Cylon takeover is inevitable. And hell yes, it is. To solidify how nerdy we truly are, Oscar and I have actually been rewatching Battlestar Galactica. Shout out to Starbuck, best character ever. Mainly because we're not enjoying much on TV right now. So please feel free to shoot me any suggestions you have of anything you think I would enjoy. You can be my new Netflix. But in closing, it's been a whirlwind of emotions, not necessarily bad ones, because I think feelings reminds me I'm human, and that's a good thing. Those are my thoughts today on love, death, and not quite robots yet. But in the words of Cylon 6, all of this has happened before. All of this will happen again. Until next time, everybody, thanks for listening. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to The Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.